Let's spend some time talking about chapters this morning, right? So, for chapters, and I mean chapters in your life, you want to keep moving on, right? Um, Now, I wrote some things down just because I wanted to capture everything, and then we'll have a conversation. You don't want to get stuck on a chapter in your past, right? It's simply one small part of your life story, and your story goes on. Right? Get curious about the good, juicy parts coming up next, right? And that is what we'll talk about today. So your chapter can only break you if you let it, right? You either will let things hamper you or hem you down, or you'll move on. And sometimes, if you think about it, when things seem like they're falling apart, they're actually falling into place. That's your chapter. Because you are the author of your story, that thing called life, right? And life can only break you if you let it, right? If you grab that pen and you hang on to it, you write your story. I know I've hinted at that a little bit, but I just really want to talk about what it's meant to write your story, right? At the end of the day, we can't control when we live, when we die, any of that stuff. But while I am here, what do I have control over? That's the big question. That's what I mean when I say write your story, right? You take over the things you have control over, right? Or take control over the things that you can. And if you can't succeed today, then try again on tomorrow. Because what I know is your story is yours to write. Only you can write it. No one else can write it for you. Now, I won't lie and say it'll be easy all the time, right? It won't be easy every time. Not if you're doing it right. Right? Sometimes you're going to have hard times, good and bad, right? But never let your fear decide your fate. That's the most important piece that people need to know, right? And your alone time can sometimes be your safety time. It's your time that you spend with your thought and figure out, how is my story even beginning? What's the middle part of it? How will it end? Right? You have that pen. You write those chapters. Right? And no matter what happens during your story, if there are bad things in your story, remember that they happen to us to teach us how to look at the good things in a whole new light. Right? So there will be bad things. But in those bad, there will also be good. So it's just a reminder to continue to write your story and write it well, right? And your story being well doesn't mean it has a happy ending or whatever. It just means it's your story. You write it, right? You have the strength and the confidence to write your story. Don't let anyone else do that for you. Speak your mind, even if your voice shakes. And then never look back, because you don't want that distraction, right? Be comfortable being left out sometimes, right? Be comfortable being second choice. Be comfortable being a backup. Be fine with that. that's all that I have to say, right? If I can look back at some of my biggest mistakes when it comes to my story, is thinking that people care as much for me as much as I do them, right? Because then I drop the pen and I let them tell the story. But I have to remember to always hold my pen, always stay within the lines, right? Always write each of the words on my page to tell my chapter. One of the courageous decisions that you will ever make is to finally let go of what is hurting your heart and soul, and then move forward with your story. Your story can include hurt and pain and suffering, but there's always good in there too, right? The hurt, the pain, the suffering, they are what help make the story. They are the suspense. They are the high parts to the story, but they are your story. And just remember that you are the awesome author or writer of that story. Again, no one else can tell your story, only you can. Don't let people write it for you. They didn't get your permission, right? They're writing it illegally. It's your story to tell, not theirs. Write your story. Have a good day.